Hello, everyone, and welcome to a special edition of the Always Aggressive podcast. I'm Hunter Massengill, alongside
I'm Andrew Spay with Flow Wrestling.
Tanner, over there. You guys know Tanner. We subbed out head coach Tony Ursuline for a special guest today.
Tony has something going on today. We'll talk about it a little bit, but he's busy at the moment.
He had something going on.
There's some engagement.
Couldn't come.
Is it 4 o'clock that he?
Yeah,
4 o'clock.
Yeah, it's a conflict, I guess.
Conflict.
But big shoes to fill. I'm honored to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I mean, Coach does leave some big shoes, but I think he'll handle it well.
I actually think he has pretty normal-sized feet.
He does. Andrew, on campus today for obviously Purdue versus Iowa, a huge matchup in Big Ten wrestling, huge matchup in the college wrestling world in general. Is this your first time to campus?
First time, yeah. First time West Lafayette, first time on campus.
Cool.
Really enjoyed it. I was telling Tanner as we were taking our tour, there's the Boilermaker aesthetic is everywhere. There's train tracks for instead of crosswalking.
Yeah, there is.
There's rivets in a lot of the molding of the walls and pillars and everything. All those little touches, they add up to make for a real cool experience. And then, it's top-notch D1 facilities. So.
Oh, yeah. So you've kind of had your run of the place a little bit yesterday. You got in yesterday, right?
Yep, yesterday.
Yesterday, and then this morning, gotten to see a wrestling room, gotten to see,
Yep, we filmed practice yesterday, so those did a lot of interviews. Those are all up on the site right now. If you go to the event page for Iowa versus Purdue, interviews with Coach Ursuline, interviews with a bunch of the wrestlers, and some practice footage. So you can check that all out now.
So was it as warm as it usually is up in the wrestling room?
It's warm.
Yesterday?
Like wrestling rooms, and you're used to being around like the steam and the heat and everybody. Once they get all those bodies banging into each other, it does create a warm environment for sure.
We used to do this show from the wrestling room, and by the time we got everything set up that we need to get set up to go live, it needed a little bit of a break outside the room just to wipe the sweat off before I get on camera.
You got a cool down period before you get back on.
It's brutal. An exciting day for Purdue wrestling, an exciting season so far for Purdue wrestling from where you're sitting, and your coworkers from where you guys are sitting. What are some of your thoughts on how Coach Ursuline has gotten to the program where it is right now, 5 years into this build for him?
Yeah, great topic because it's fun for us to talk about down at Flow HQ. Talk to Coach Ursuline about this in the interview a little bit, and it's definitely a progression that you want to see when you're a new coach. You're coming in the first year transition. You have to start rebuilding the program in the mold that you want to take it in the direction where your vision goes. And I think we're seeing the fruits of those labors pretty obviously, or pretty evidently, when you look at things like national qualifiers. The numbers are going up. That's what you want to see. Look at a punch. You have guys now that are very well poised. No jinxing. It's March. It's a couple months away.
Long way to go. We got a long way to go.
Long way to go. But there are, I believe, 4 guys ranked in the top 8. So that would kind of project. And rankings are not projections. And rankings are just part of the equation. They're really not. They don't affect anything. But you got some guys and some other guys that are definite contenders for All-American status, and that would be, I think, a huge thing once you break that dam. Once one guy gets on the podium, once you start getting those guys, then it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy, and it's cool. Like you said, or like you asked, what is the buzz like about the program? And anytime you see strides being made, it's tough in college. You can't just do better every year because that just keeps you where you were. You have to outwork what other guys are doing who are trying to outwork you. So it's really cool. I think there's a lot of attention that was not as much there before, and we're writing about and we're seeing videos of and we're talking about a lot of Boilermaker wrestlers because there's some exciting guys in that lineup.
That's like you said this morning, Andrew. We were talking about how the fact that it's you get in there and coaching, and it's not about just doing the right things and working hard, because everybody's trying to do the right things.
That's right.
Everybody's working hard. It's like, how are you differentiating yourself, and how are you doing things a little differently so that you are making those gains? And it's really looking like coaches doing a lot of those things.
Yeah.
And that's what's always interesting to me, and this is speaks to sports across the board, is everyone's trying hard.
That's right.
It's like you can't just preach like, oh, we're going to give it our best effort. Like
everybody doing the right thing just keeps you right where you are.
Yes, everyone doing the right thing puts you right in the middle of the pack. You have to go above and beyond. And to your point that I think that you already made, when you have a couple guys like Kendall Coleman, what we're seeing out of him, and then your vets like Dylan Lighty and Christian Bruner that are having the seasons that they're having, it helps itself. So you have those guys go out and they win. They qualify for nationals. They go out and they end up on a podium. Then recruits see that that's what they want to do, and it's possible here.
Yep.
I mean, you have your Ohio States, your Penn States, your Iowas, your Michigans, your Arizona States. All the big dogs out there that they put kids up on podiums, and they're front of their chest says Penn State, says Ohio State, and recruits see that, and they know, hey, if I go to Ohio State, I could probably win a national championship. So it's getting those couple guys to break through.
Mm-hmm.
See that Purdue.
To see that Purdue up there, to know if I go to Purdue, I can do it there.
Yeah, Hunter, you're right about that 100%. It is so hard to get those initial successes because everybody's looking for those guys. Either they're overlooked, or you're just recruiting them even harder, or you're just trying to get them on campus. And then there's a million things that could happen. There's injuries is the number one thing. There's all sorts of stuff where you could be doing everything right recruiting, and it still doesn't pan out. And then you get the questions, and but it's good to see everything. Everybody wants. Nobody is always satisfied with the success. There's always more to do. But the guys you mentioned, 100%, Dylan Leidy and Christian Bruner, talked to both of them about their journey, getting on campus, and really coming to their own now, being leaders as seniors. And then young guys, Kendall Coleman, Devin Schroeder at 125 is an exciting potential guy. It's good to see him wrestling again after taking a little bit of break to get his body right. And he's got a big challenge. I'm sure we're going to talk about the matchups coming up. But all those guys, plus just having the depth to have a solid, dual meet lineup, plug in all those other weight class gaps. It's fun stuff to watch.
So a little background on how Flo decided to come to town. Andrew and I met out at Journeyman.
That's right.
We came out there, and he and I ran into each other, introduced ourselves, and you mentioned then, hey, we're talking about trying to come to town, and then we ran into each other again at Vegas. And at that point, you had gotten in the back, and you're like, yes, we're coming. Let's find a weekend and whatnot. And so I guess my question is like, what was the motivation when we met up at in New York, and it seemed like it was already something you had thought about doing. Like you guys were going to try to get here. So I guess my question is like, what was the motivation to come to Purdue and see what we got?
Yeah, finally buy that plane ticket and start scheduling everything.
Sure.
Preseason, we start looking ahead all the time. So in the summer, when you start doing the previews, when you start getting your first set of rankings out there, you're looking at a million, every name that you can uncover. You want to make sure you don't miss anything. And you start to see the teams that have more guys than you're expecting. Of course, all the schools you mentioned, the blue bloods of NCAA wrestling, we all know who they are. Those are already on the radar.
Sure.
And no Big Ten team is off the radar. But you start seeing those guys in there, the Bruners, the Leidies, the Schroeders, guys with some history. And then when we were in the Journeyman, I forget, were you guys doing the duels or just the...
We just did the duels.
Just the duels.
Just
okay,
the
we're
duels.
at the Journeyman Northeast duels. There's two different events, one after another.
Right, at that tournament.
Keep them straight. But we saw Kendall Coleman. And that was a wrestler, an athlete that was exciting to watch. I mean, he was putting a good product on the mat every time he steps on the mat, no matter what. And we saw that there was... with all these veterans, with all these guys doing good things. Griffin Perriott is another guy that's been on the doing stuff for a long time. Now here's a guy that we want to get on. We love to build stars at Flow. We love to call it hype, call it whatever you want, but we want to get on the train early and not overhyped, not overexposed. But if Kendall Coleman is going to be an exciting wrestler, we want to make sure we have much Kendall Coleman on our site and to the fans and give folks exciting wrestling product as much as possible. And so besides just seeing the whole lineup, and through the years, it's we were not missing you guys before. It was just, okay, they're really, Coach Ersland a lot of things are coming together. The pieces of the puzzle are starting to come there. And now there's some really good young talent in the recruiting classes. Travis Ford Melton got that red shirt pulled. He's a guy that, you like to see, and we're hoping to see more from him too. And yeah, it's putting good product out there for wrestling fans to see, and Purdue's doing that, so that's why we want to be here.
It's got to be exciting because it's a little bit different in Tanner and I's circumstance because we have a dog in the fight. We get to be a little bit biased
for sure.
But to see
they sign the paychecks,
right? To see a team that's not a blue blood in NCAA wrestling to come into this coming in against Iowa and Tanner and I were talking about the article that you wrote about how you could see this match going completely opposite directions. That every possible outcome that you could think of, you could make an argument for. So it's got to be exciting to see a team like Purdue making their way into this space and having these guys that we've been talking about that can compete with the matchups that we'll talk about in just a second.
Yeah, absolutely. Like the distribution of possible events. Probably not going to see an upset. Sorry, I mean that in all due respect. But you're
It's
also
okay. You get to say that.
Yeah,
You can say that. We're not saying that.
But it would be awesome if it did. It's going to happen
Right.
live on Flow. And then if there was a shutout, I'm not saying that it's definitely not going to happen. I'm saying it is definitely not going to happen. We're not going to see that. But that's on
Not
the
gonna
two
happen.
tail ends of what might happen. So this is what what we think of from the media perspective of you're going to learn a lot, or you're going to get good data. You're going to get good information from this dual meet at just about every weight class. You're going to know, okay, well, that's where these guys are. I mean, you have a range of where you think they are, and then you get to see up close, a one-on-one, head-to-head, and even a thing you learn a lot from. There's a rematch, Kendall Coleman and Caleb Young.
Yep.
That is one of the highlights by far of this dual meet. Everyone wants to see a rematch because that match at Midlands was crazy.
Awesome.
It was evenly matched guys, both great athletes hitting exciting moves, and then the scramble at the end in overtime. That's a coin flip.
Yep.
That's a 50-50, and we want to see that again. We want more information on those guys. I want to see them wrestle 100 times,
Right.
but if we can get another match up that we just saw just a few weeks ago or a month ago or so, no, just a few weeks ago at
Yeah,
Midlands.
it just happened.
Yeah, literally just
Seems
a
like
few
it was
weeks.
a long time ago, though, right?
Yeah.
Gosh.
Time dilates a little bit and then spreads out. But yet to get that information to know, like, okay, was there a fluke involved here? Just the more matches you can from two elite guys like that, the better.
Yeah, and it's got to be. It's exciting. It's exciting when especially for us that have dogs in the fight, to see someone like Kendall Coleman, see young guys like Devin Schroeder, you get 5-10 matches into the season, and then all of a sudden you're like, hey, this isn't a fluke. This he's wrestled some good matches, he's seen some good talent, and he's competing with guys that are highly ranked guys, and all of a sudden, you get what we've got now with Kendall Coleman, who's going to have a rematch today against Caleb Young, and then Devin Schroeder, who's setting records for the program, and it's a lot of fun to watch these guys
Don't
grow
forget
up.
Dylan Leidy.
Yeah, can't forget Dylan Leidy.
Undefeated Dylan Leidy.
I want to get into some of those matchups today for that reason, because we have now everyone who's watching this, I'm sure, is wrestling fans. They understand how this works and know that coaches like to play a little chess game. It's all about the end of the season, so we don't know exactly who's going to go today. All we have is probable starters. As for Iowa, the probable starters combined on their team have 10 losses amongst the entire team. 8 of the 10 starters are in the top 4 ranked nationally. So it is, to the point that Andrew made, it is going to be a tough day today, but it's going to be an exciting matches. Obviously,
they're number 1 in the country for a reason.
Yeah.
They're a very good team.
And they've proven it in the first half of this season. Obviously, we got the second half. We got the Big Ten dual meet season, where you're going to see a lot more matchups. But they've had competition. They've earned where they are in the rankings. But that makes it so much more
And
exciting.
for those that don't know, Andrew is behind a lot of Flow's collegiate rankings, and so he's always trying to look at everything and everyone and
try to cover everything as possible.
I do not envy his job. Let's just put it that way.
If you have a problem with the rankings, it's a team effort. Christian Piles is very much involved. Everybody comes together.
You
but
want to
if you really like the rankings, by all means, the credit.
If you don't like them, spread the blame around.
Yeah.
If you like them, this is your guy.
I will take all the praise and accolades you like to give. Thank
So personally, the match that I'm looking most forward to is 74. If we get to see Dylan Leidy versus Kemmerer. Now, as someone who is not affiliated with either program,
That's true.
if you're Coach Brands, are you sending Kemmerer out there to take on Dylan Leidy today?
I mean, I think so. I think this is where you need a guy like Michael Kemmerer to prove that he's going to score big points for you in March, because they're relying on him. It's tough to do. I don't envy Coach Brands. I don't envy anybody that's in a position where you have a guy that has been just beaten, just the injuries, the snake-bitten career that he's had, and still managed to get on that podium twice.
Yeah.
Then a full year of recovery from injuries is tough to do, and you just want him to be 100% whole because you know what he's capable of. But at a certain point, you either have him as your 74-pounder, or you need to come up with a new plan. So I think you want to get him out there earlier. If he's healthy, if he's ready to go, you wrestle him. If he's not healthy, then he probably shouldn't have wrestled on Friday, or maybe we reassess, or Iowa reassesses. Put yourself in his shoes. We would do that, and then after this weekend, we'll see. But I think you got to wrestle him.
Yeah, I mean, it's like I said, it's the chess match that these coaches have to play because, you know, these duels, they want to stay in shape, they want to keep everyone ready. These duels are important to the team and to rankings, but they have a goal in mind that is the end of the season of national championships, and there's certain benchmarks that they have to get to in terms of matches and wins and such.
You need eight matches for a win percentage ranking. You need 15 matches for an RPI. You know, you want to get those guys in that position where they're earning spots for the conference tournaments.
And a caveat I should say from my thinking of what you do is, as someone who is not affiliated with any program, I would never second guess any coach's decision to put anybody out there or not. The knowledge that the coaches have is far superior, no matter how into the wrestling weeds I can get as someone in the media. This is just playing out a hypothetical of what I think, from what my imperfect knowledge has, the responsibility of the coaches to the health and the well-being of their student athletes. So whatever happens out there, I trust the coaches on both sides all know what they're doing.
And this is going to be a great match from top to bottom. It's going to be fantastic. I would say my second favorite match that we're going to see today is Warner versus Bruner. Bruner
should be a good one.
Has slipped on Friday night against Northwestern. Looking to bounce back today against obviously a very tough opponent. Any other matches that are exciting for you guys? I mean, obviously, like I said, top to bottom, it's incredible.
Yeah, I think the ones you said, a great bounce back opportunity for Christian Bruner, a tough opponent. Jacob Warner, I think, got the better of Bruner at Big Tens last year, but Bruner has got some real. I mean, he won Midlands, which Warner was.
And Bruner does have a win over Warner.
Oh, and they do have so they split
Bruner
career.
Beat him. Yeah, they split career.
Okay, so I mean that's another reason to think like that is going to be a high profile, anything could happen type of match. 57 we already covered. 125 and 133.
Yeah,
just because
Devin Schroeder and Spencer Lee at 125.
Any chance you get to watch a guy like Spencer Lee, take advantage of. Devin Schroeder, talked to him yesterday as well. Those are the matches that, even if you're not a favorite, you get pumped to wrestle, because this is your chance to put hands on a guy like Spencer Lee. Number one guys have targets on their back. Guys returning national champs, two-time national champs. It's an opportunity. So, and just to measure where you are. Spencer gets bonus just about every time he walks on the mat. Just making it competitive in just positioning.
Yeah.
One situation, one scramble. If you can do that, that can build your confidence as well.
And it's a test, especially someone like Devin Schroeder, who's a redshirt junior, so he's still got another year left. But also like Travis Ward Melton, who's going to go out and see DeSanto today. He's a young guy. Kendall Coleman's a young guy. It's that, like you mentioned, that testing yourself of, if I want to be a national champion, these are the guys that I'm going to have to beat. And they get a chance to see someone with that talent this early in the season, this early in their careers, is great for them if they can seize the opportunity and go out and, if they go out and get pinned or they get teched and it really hurts their confidence, then it could have the opposite effect. But hopefully they go out and they compete well and they prove to themselves that I can compete with the type of talent that I'm going to need to be able to beat if I want to be a national champion.
Absolutely. Coach Ersland even mentioned that. That's why he crafted such a tough schedule. He wanted his wrestlers to know
Boy, did he.
where they are. Yeah.
We've had a lot going on this year.
I mean, I even forgot about it when I was talking to your guys yesterday. Michigan State Open is one of the toughest first week tournaments to go to.
It was loaded this year.
It was as tough as I've seen the MSU Open. Then you go do some duels at Journeyman, which had some real tough teams. Then you go CKLV at the top of the month, and then you go to Midlands at the end of the month, and now your Big Ten. There's no break.
No break.
We were joking, Tanner and I, about your guys' bye week is when you have one dual weekend. That's
you don't have to make weight twice.
That's the best rest you're going to get.
And I'm sure the guys on the team know the exact amount of days before they get that day off. Before there's one single weekend. Well, it's going to be an exciting day today. You're sticking around through the end of the day, flying home this evening? Tomorrow morning. So you get to hang around, talk to the guys post-match. I'm pumped. It's going to be exciting.
I'm very excited. I'm excited for the seat that Tanner hooked up for me right on that side. To watch that kind of caliber wrestling. Two top Big Ten teams doesn't get much better.
Yeah, should be a packed house for both sides. I know Iowa fans travel very well, so there's going to be a lot of black and yellow / black and gold.
I think they call it gold too.
Do they call it gold?
I think they call it gold.
They don't get to have gold. We have gold. So it's black and yellow for Iowa. thank you all for joining us on a special edition of the Always Aggressive podcast. Andrew, thanks for joining us as well.
Thank you.
Tanner,
Pleasure to be here.
thank you for joining
4 o'clock
us.
today, guys.
4 o'clock.
Live on BTN Plus, live on Flow Wrestling.
Yep.
Hunter's going to be on the call. Along
Myself
with our guy,
and
Corey
Corey Palm behind the scenes will be on the call.
Corey's over there hiding behind the camera. He doesn't want to let you know he's here.
You'll hear him at 4 o'clock today when the Boilermakers take on the Hawkeyes here from Holloway Gymnasium. So thank you all for joining us, and as always, Boiler up.